1 in 3. That's how many American men will face physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 3 women worldwide will endure physical or sexual abuse, most often by someone they know. But domestic abuse isn't just bruises. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's control that seeps into every part of your life. I'm Ingrid Dutton, and I survived it. Then I created 1 in 3 so no one else has to suffer in silence. Each week, we break that silence together. Occasionally joined by survivors, loved ones, and experts, we talk about the pain, yes, but also about the healing, resilience, and the fight to reclaim your life. This podcast is more than awareness, it's a lifeline. And a reminder, you are seen, you are heard, you are never alone. Search for 1 in 3 wherever you get your podcasts, because every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard. In 2012, President Obama declared September as National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Organizations and individuals use this month to increase awareness and raise funds for those affected by childhood cancer. Childhood cancer is the number 1 cause of disease-related death for those under the age of 14 years. Stomach, also known as gastric cancer, however, is a rare form of cancer which typically affects men over the age of 65 years. It's even more rare in children. In 1997, a group of parents chose the color gold to represent all of the children affected by childhood cancer, the survivors, the victims, and those still fighting. You can go gold by donating to an organization, volunteering time, attending events, or simply putting on a gold ribbon to show support and help raise awareness. Hey everybody, welcome to another situation. I'm one of your hosts, Ingrid. Jessica's feeling a little under the weather today, so she was unable to join June and I. I had the privilege of meeting with June, who educated me on statistics of childhood cancer and stomach cancer as she detailed Jewel's story. Here's June.
Well, okay, so I'm June Sweat. I live in Rome, Georgia. My daughter, Jewel, was diagnosed with stomach cancer when she was 16 in February of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. We live in Rome, which is like an hour and a half from Chattanooga, where we were taken to Erlanger, that's where she was diagnosed, is at Erlanger in the pediatrics. It's just kind of odd. She was super healthy, super athletic. She was on like 3 cheer teams, competitive. She coached a little tiny team. She taught tumbling classes, worked at the gym that I worked at. I mean, she was nonstop go, go, go. She competed in her all-star team, competed in a national competition 3 weeks before she was admitted into Erlanger and won first place. Like, she was nonstop. We literally, the day before we got admitted into Erlanger, we went prom dress and Miss Model. That's like a little pageant in our high school. Went prom dress shopping the day before. Bought 2 big old sequin dresses for, the year, things we had going on. And the next day we were at the emergency room because she was in so much pain. And then the next thing we knew, well, it was kind of a long wait, but we were then in an ambulance on our way to Erlanger, where no one kind of knew what was wrong with her, because we went into the oncology floor from the ambulance. I didn't know she had cancer then. I just saw us going into an oncology floor. I mean, they understood it. I realize now. She didn't realize it because she was so sick. It kind of took us a bit to figure out that it was stomach cancer, because stomach cancer in general is extremely rare, and definitely doesn't fit her age, like she doesn't fit any of the categories. Like if you Google it, it's like men over 55 with environmental causes mostly. That's what it's going to say anyway. After a lot of research, I've realized that's not really the case so much. But she didn't fall into that at all. So during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, like I feel a little bit like a fraud because we were dealing with an adult cancer as a child. It feels like, like I had to research all the adult things. But she was 16 when we went in February to Erlanger, and we didn't leave, and she turned 17 March that next month. We were still in the hospital. So like she's just close to being not in a childhood setting, but because of that, she didn't qualify for any of the adult cancer treatments. And then also I didn't quite understand at the time how few treatment options there are for children, and like actually what goes into, just the, like how many different chemos there are, different drugs that are out there. Like there's how much funding. I mean, I knew it wasn't enough because I've had friends that had children that had cancer. We all know somebody, and in September people are going gold and being, supportive. But like you don't necessarily see really what that means. Like, of course you support them and you want the best for everybody's kid. If you have a kid, like obviously. And so like you see they deserve more than 4% of money of all like the federal funding. Like that's how much the children get out of the entire pot. And like, I mean, I don't know, like that just doesn't make much sense to me. Like I know there's a lot of reasons, and it doesn't fall into one thing. The kids grow and they age, and it's harder to find, a controlled group to do trials on. But it's really hard for these parents to get their kids into trials. That's kind of where it started, and my beginning knowledge, I guess, of the depths of like how bad it really is for kids, because people don't, you see, the kids ringing the bell because a kid finishes chemo. If I'm scrolling through social media and I see a kid ringing a bell because they're done with chemo, yeah, I'm stopping and watching that. That's great. Like that's happy. But most of the parents, and a lot of the parents of kids that are survivors, the kids are like traumatized and they don't want to talk about cancer ever again. The parents are traumatized and they want to just move on, even with all the things that they're going to have to deal with their kid that did survive it. Then you have parents that lose their kid, and then like they just really want to never talk about cancer ever again. And I totally get that. Like I do. For me, like it just was kind of the opposite though, because Jewel's my only child. And so not a helicopter mom, but I was definitely very involved and was with her a lot. So all that time that I had, was used to pouring into her and scheduling everything around my kid, like now I don't have that. So like, what do you do when you don't all of a sudden? Like I had been preparing for her to go off to college and have empty nests, whatever, but it was like, that's not the same, because I could still be sending her packages and checking on what her grades are and how are things doing. She's going to come home for Christmas or whatever, So it was like, it took me a while to figure out, it took me a while to like get off the couch and stop staring at the wall, honestly. But then I just decided, I was like, she's like one of the very few kids that had this, but she had it. So somebody else might have it. We got to figure out something. So I went back to the people that got me connected to the specialists in the stomach cancer world and started, researching and advocating and talking about her. Like the time that I would spend on her now was like, that's kind of still what I do, except for she's not here, which, it's a lot less fun. I'll tell you that. Like it's awful. It's a lot. The, I have met a lot of, other parents that a lot of other moms mostly that I talked to that had I unfortunately already had a lot of friends whose kids have had cancer and had dealt with it, and the majority of them had won, and so that was great. We had a good outlook and hope, but hers wasn't so much. She was admitted in February of 2020, and she passed away in December of 2020. So it was a lot. It was a lot of chemo, a lot of surgeries, a lot of complications, a lot of everything. And there was COVID pandemic hit. So that was another layer. That doctors and nurses and hospitals and everybody had to, refigure out life for these kids. So that's another reason I don't really feel like I understand the childhood cancer thing as much, because there was only a couple of weeks we were in there when we were out where you could be in the hall with people. Other than that, like I see a lot of, great videos of, families together and the kids playing in the hallway with their machines. And these kids are so super resilient and like way tougher than grown-ups. I've never seen anything like it. Like these kids can just fight through things that you would not believe. But I only saw that for a couple of weeks when I would be in the hall, because then we were all in our rooms and locked in there. And the only people we saw were nurses and doctors and the technicians and all of the staff. They were all wonderful. They became our family because we couldn't have anybody else. So I don't really understand it on that kind of level either. Be the best person for to speak for childhood cancer.
I think so, though, because you dove into it, and which is that alone is kind of mind blowing, because you're hit with this news that you're not prepared for, and you're trying to wrap yourself around it emotionally, but then you're also trying to advocate for your child and try to figure out what to do. It's a lot. I can't imagine.
Yeah, no, it was way too much. I was really lucky. We were really lucky that we were at Erlanger in Chattanooga. I don't know. I mean, everybody's not going to know who that is, but every single oncologist was amazing. Every nurse was amazing. They literally were like, whatever we can do. Like, this isn't normal. The oncologists at Erlanger, they were very, very much into, helping or getting outside opinions, because, like the oncologist was like, June, if she had leukemia, I would tell you could go to second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, whatever, and that's fine. But she's going to get the same standard of care at all of those as she will here. He's like, but with this, we don't know. So there is no standard of care because children don't get this. So like the oncologist, the team, every single person was reaching out to specialists. I was reaching out to specialists. They would talk to whoever knew more than they did and implement that. And I mean, not all doctors are like that. And so I think that the care that Jill got and the, months that she did have here were like exponentially better because her doctors were so caring and so open to making sure that they were on the right course. Like once they talked to a doctor that's the specialist at the NIH, that's the National Institute of Health. I didn't know what that was before because I didn't have to, I guess. But they would, he's the top gastric surgeon there. He does total gastrectomies, which is in our case, in stomach cancer, like that's your goal. That's the best, like that's what you're hoping for, is to have your stomach totally removed. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But once they talked with Dr. Davis, they completely changed her chemo regimen to what he suggested. And that probably, I mean, I don't know how much more time that gave her, but it definitely got her into a so much better place. So, like, having doctors that don't talk down to you and don't act like they're the doctor and you don't know anything is a real blessing. Because, I mean, if a doctor had told me I wasn't leaving the hospital, I was going to die, that would probably be it for me. Like, I'd be like, okay, you're the doctor. I don't know anything. So it is what it is. But, since it was my baby, I was going to push a little further, but they were pushing further too. And they were not trying to say, well, we know what we're doing. Just listen to us. And so, like, that's one of my main things, is to never, ever let a doctor make you feel stupid for asking more questions. Never let a doctor make you feel bad about asking about a second opinion or questioning what they're telling you, because a lot of people are unfortunately in that position, and like, you're scared and you're overwhelmed. And so, of course, this person that's gone to school knows more than you do, but they might not know as much as somebody else. And so, luckily we didn't have to encounter that. We had amazing oncologists. And I mean, it obviously did not go in the way we wanted it to in the end, but I don't think that had anything to do with a lack of care from our doctors. They're doing everything in their power, which is big. It's really big, because I hear stories that, people are not getting treated like that, not at our Langer, just, various all over. Because in advocacy, I talk to a lot of people all over the country, and, well, internationally as well. But more so, I can compare more U.S. wise. And so that's like, I just don't want people to ever think that they shouldn't ask the questions, and just keep researching. Just because the doctor tells you this is the one thing, they might not be right. Just because they haven't heard of it yet, there's a lot going on out there. There's tons of research, and you have to search for trials, and you have to a lot of it is going to be a lot of it's on the parents to do. I don't know if that's the case in everybody's situation, but I know a lot of my friends, especially if they've had something that's not more of the baseline children's cancers, like leukemia, the ones that you see people being healed and go into remission, and all those, the ones that have the rare diseases, their kids don't fit into that mold. They don't, it's hard to find a trial. It's hard to find these things. And I've heard terrible stories from other hospitals and other parents that, their social workers weren't helping them, like their financial burdens and not understanding how to do this. And, that takes a toll. We were super lucky. Erlanger, I don't know what their employee process is, but they have it down because they have all the right people in all the right places. Thank goodness. And so that was kind of our experience, and what I learned with, the basics of trials, insurance, money, kids. It's just a whole lot. It's overwhelming. The numbers, which I wrote down, and it put me in a very odd headspace today, because I started it last week when we talked, to see, every year I've been sharing these numbers, because, like I said, I had friends that had, been affected by cancer, and some of them made it and a couple didn't, and that's awful. But, I was like, let me make sure these numbers are right, because I'm really in this now, and I don't want to spread the wrong information. And I'm looking back at my past post from years back, and the numbers aren't changing in a good way. It's mind blowing. Globally, I think it says this year, 400,000 kids will be diagnosed with a form of cancer. That's a lot of kids for 1 year globally. Now, in the US, it's going to be a lot, it's going to be treated a lot better. I mean, they're going to have better outcomes than some of the, more impoverished areas. Um, our our numbers aren't great here. So like right now, it was 1 in 285 will be diagnosed before they turn 20 years old.
Oh my gosh.
This year. So I mean, if you look at a class with about 300 kids in it, one of those kids, that's how I look at it basically. It is you got to put it on something that you can see. And that's I know 300 kids, and looking at her high school, which one of those kids is going to get it? That's a scary thing, by their 20th birthday, every 3 minutes, a child is diagnosed. We've been talking for 15 minutes. And so we've had, how many parents have had that, it just isn't, it's unbelievable. And that, I've done some advocacy, not specifically for childhood, but I did it for stomach cancer, advocacy. We had to do it virtually because, of all COVID restrictions. So we didn't physically go to Washington, but we did it virtually. So I did it once with a group for stomach cancer specifically, trying to get more funds allocated because we're also a rare disease. So we kind of fall into this too. And we're in the rare disease pot. We don't get much funding. And then I've also done one for OVAC, One Voice Over Cancer. And we're begging for this money, we all over the country. We were on teams talking with people, that are trying to get funds allocated. And so we can get the research for these kids. So, because without funding, we don't have research. Without research, we're not getting treatments and trials to get the treatments. Without treatments, our numbers are going to continue to be bad. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kids that are thriving. They are, but there's a lot that are not, and we're not even able to get, a lot of children are on adult regimen chemo. It's there because there's nothing for them. It's an adult regimen. For Jewel, that wasn't such a terrible thing. She was really close to that age. So she would have been, she was technically, but a 4-year-old or something, I don't know, just to throw out, that would, I don't know what effect that chemo treatment, that she probably couldn't even handled it. I don't know. And so when you look at the numbers of the FDA approved cancer treatments, and this one, the last one I read, is the last 20 years, there's been 190 adult cancer treatment approved by the FDA. In that same past 20 years, there have been 3 children's cancer treatments approved. There's a lot of things that go into that. I mean, it's, there's doctors that are absolutely willing and trying. And of course, they want to do the best, but, you can only work with what you have to work with. And when we were doing the OVAC Advocacy Day, I was reading, it was since 1982, there's been 12 treatments approved. That's my entire life. I was born in 82. I'm 40. But about 12 new treatments come out a year for grown-ups, for adults. And that's extremely disproportionate. Why are children getting 4% of the money when they have the most life to lose? There's not enough treatments, and there's not enough funding to get those treatments moving along, I guess, is the main point. And people are not super interested in, like I said, talking about it because, I mean, it's not a fun topic.
Right.
So, like I said, I think there's layers to it because, the children do age out. So, the kids are growing, and then whatever cancer they may have. You start with an age group, but then half of your people age out, and so now your trial doesn't work. I'm not sure if that's what it is, or I'm not a doctor. I'm just a mom.
If the listeners wanted to get more involved or to help, is there anything they could do?
Yeah. You can, there's like, depending on if you want to get involved into childhood cancer, there's a billion groups, and you can, like, you just like Google any of them. Like, I'm not affiliated with any one specific one, but there's a ton of good ones out there, and I'm sure in your area, for whoever is listening, that they can, like a quick Google search is gonna give you some information. One of my main things also is like, okay, now that we know this, what do we do about it besides just get into an advocacy group? Because like, once you're in an advocacy group and you want to help, like, you don't have to give money. You can give your time. You can write your representatives, like the people, your elected officials, the people that you vote for. Make sure that what they are standing for is something that aligns with you in this cause. Because a lot of times this gets glossed over, and we may think that this is the most amazing politician, or whoever, this is my candidate for whatever, but you may not realize that this is not exactly the way they vote. And if this is an important thing to you, it's pretty important to me. So that changes my standing on how I look at who I'm voting for, because like that, those are the people that are making the decisions. Those are who the advocacy groups are appealing to. If you want to get involved in helping, the kids on a more personal level, see what groups are in your area doing things. I'm still involved with a lot of those foundations just because they're doing great things for kids while they're sick, helping the family, helping the siblings, making their days brighter. I mean, I could mention a ton, but like, they are so close to my heart, even though like their main goal is not to, change policy. They're changing lives daily as well. Because I mean, we had so many. It was like, it's a dark time. So little things are super important. And when people are helping you that you don't even know, and like, it's very uplifting. We needed that bright spot when our child life specialist would come in and say, well, oh, we're going to decorate your room. Lana's Love wants to do a room makeover because we've been in there for so long, and they, asked what she liked, and they came in and they bought all the stuff. Well, we decorated because it was COVID, but they would have, and, just these kind of things that really do make the stay in a hospital so much better. Like, there's just so many. And so, like, call, like, if you can't find it when you Google, call your local hospital and ask them what they have. I know that like some of my favorite ones are Little Wishes. They were so amazing. That was one of Jill's favorites. Lana's Love. They were there weekly doing something, bringing dinner to the family. And those are, well, Little Wishes isn't just local, but Lana's Love is. Um, but like, just so many various ones would, all of a sudden we'd have like a little gift basket of things for her to, just something to do in the hospital. She's getting chemo. She's on medicine. She's bored. She wants to, they want to do things. Like the smaller kids, I'd see them out there. I'd get their Little Wish a toy, and they're out in the hall pushing their new truck, and they're all excited. Like, yeah, like those, and that's a lot easier to do. Like, to get involved with the smaller, um, a lot of things are parent led. If someone loses a child and they want to honor them, they may start up a nonprofit and serve their community that served them at, when they were in need. And I have a friend whose daughter was in Erlanger, and she started the Sarah Mears Foundation. She just got it up and going this past year, and I saw she was delivering bags of goodies to Erlanger the other day for the kids there. So, there's just tons of things that you can do on a small scale, because we have the best intentions, of course, and we want to like just make all the changes right now and make everything better. for all the kids, obviously. But, realistically, start small. Just call, see what you can do. I personally like to look to the smaller nonprofits when I'm donating my personal money than to, a big hospital, because the bigger hospitals, for research and those kind of things, if you're just, if you're doing $20, like, they're working on a grand scheme, but these smaller nonprofits are doing things and they make things happen with a lot less money.
Right.
So,
That makes sense.
like, that's just me personally. You can put your money wherever you want to. If you want to put it, $1 to $1 billion towards any kind of children's cancer, that's funding, research, help, happiness, whatever, like, do it. That's amazing. It's kind of hard to relate to somebody that hasn't been through this experience, and you don't want anybody to be able to relate to your experience. But for some reason, like, we do all somehow end up together and, like, have this, collective grief that we kind of understand each other, even if we don't, like, really know each other in person. And so there's, a lot of good groups for that.
Hey, so you may have noticed that June and I ran into a few connection issues. So we decided to finish the episode with me texting her questions, and she sent me voice notes for the answers. Here are the questions that I had asked. How long was Jewel in the hospital? What were her symptoms that led you to bring her to the hospital? And were they ever able to determine the primary cause for her stomach cancer? So here are June's answers.
So when we were admitted into the hospital in February, we were there for kind of a long time. She was 16. Her birthday is March 24th, so she turned 17 in the hospital during the pandemic. So we were at Erlanger. We were there for a while. It was a long while, and I can't remember exactly when we were there and for how long each day, but they would get us, to a place where she was able to, sometimes we were able to come home for a little bit, and do be home for a little while and get to do some important activities with, her friends. Even though it was pandemic, we were, friends would come over, and, they were really good about being, especially for teenagers, they were really good about, taking precautions and being careful so they wouldn't get her sick when she had such a low immune system. But being able to come home and be with people after being locked in a hospital with just, healthcare workers, not that we didn't love our healthcare workers, we did very much. But we were able to come home, and sometimes we would come home for, a while. Then we would go in for a day for just a clinic visit, or sometimes we would have to go in for, a few nights for chemo, or a week for chemo, or a complication, or whatever it was. But we were in and out. It wasn't a constant hospital stay. We're only an hour and a half drive from the hospital, so that's not too bad. And then so Erlanger was our main home hospital, pediatric wise, but her oncologists there were also consulting with specialists at the NIH in Bethesda, Maryland. And so we went twice out there for a consultation with Dr. Davis, who's the head surgical oncologist for stomach cancer, basically. And at that point, they had gotten her to NED, which is no evidence of disease, showing from her scans. So we went out there to see if he would be able to, so he could assess her in person, figure out if she would be a candidate for the surgery to remove her stomach. At that point, we thought she was, so we came back and continued on doing the regimen here at Erlanger. Then flew back out to Bethesda, to the NIH, we were going to be there for a couple of months, but to see, to do the surgery and then the recovery from the surgery. So that's pretty large surgery to have your entire stomach removed. And they were going to do another high pack thing, which is it's a different
it's another type of chemo. But when they opened her up for that surgery, the scans were wrong because this cancer is pretty sneaky. A lot of the cancers are, and so even though it looked on the scans like she was no evidence of disease, she actually did still have quite a bit of cancer, and she was not a candidate for the stomach removal. So they just sewed her back up and got her healed up enough to send us back to Erlanger, where we stayed for her recovery enough until we were able to go home on hospice. And so that's what we did. And we would go back and forth for palliative chemo to Erlanger once, because the palliative chemo was helping her. It made her feel better. And the side effects weren't worse than the benefits at that point. And then once they stopped, the side effects started being more of a problem than the benefits. Then we stopped the palliative chemo, and then we were just at home with hospice until she passed. So we were in and out of the hospital a whole lot. But they were really, really great to us when we were in the hospital, and they were really great about trying to keep us at home as much as we could safely. So that's kind of our, in and out of the hospital situation. And so Jewel's symptoms were, like, when I look back on it, they had gone on for a little while, but they were super, super mild, or either she was just so tough that she really didn't complain a lot. Like, she's a cheerleader, she's used to getting hurt, she's like very tough. So she was like, every once in a while she would complain about, like, she was having a hard time eating something. Like, it was just hard to swallow, or something would, like, give her acid reflux. And, the doctors just assumed she's a teenager, she's driving, they're eating poorly, and, she's busy. So, they would prescribe something for, reflux, acid reflux, that kind of thing. Until it was just like, it didn't really get bad until it got really bad. And that was just, within weeks of it being awful. Like I said, she was, it had been like a month, 3 weeks to a month before she was in the hospital because of it. She had won a cheer competition. She's like throwing all kinds of tumbling, doing all the stuff. And then she was really sick, really, really sick all of a sudden. So, the symptoms, I wish that I had, followed through more, but doctors, nurses, friends, like, that are in the medical field, like, literally nobody thought it was a thing. And that happens with adult patients with stomach cancer as well. That's one of the main reasons it's such a deadly cancer, is because people don't find out until it's so far progressed, and it's pretty quick. So she's at a stage 4 by the time we found out. And a lot of people are. And at that point, it's really kind of too late almost. Not in every case, but in hers it was. So we were, we just thought that it was, everybody has like a little bit of stomach problems, Rolaids, antacids, whatever. And that's what it was. She was still able to run miles a day and do all her things. So, if maybe just be a little more cautious and be serious. I don't think anybody could have changed her outcome, because it's so rare. There's no way that a doctor would have ever jumped to that conclusion. It's ridiculous though, because like an endoscopy is this, like, they do a scope. It's minimally invasive, very quick, and that is really how pretty much everyone is diagnosed with stomach cancer. So that is a simple procedure, but you don't get those until you're old. So she wouldn't have been there wasn't really anything we could have done to change that. I don't think they did not. We don't have a cause for why she got stomach cancer. There are generally it falls into a couple of categories for stomach cancer, and it's like you have a genetic mutation. It's like, similar like the BRCA gene in breast cancer. That it's like the CDH1, and if you have that, then like your family gets tested because probably some family members are going to have it, and they preemptively get their stomach removed. She did not test for that. She didn't test positive for that. And then the other cause for stomach cancer is generally environmental, which is why it's known as an old man disease, I guess. Because, like the environment. But every doctor I talk to and have talked to, every scientist, every researcher, every person that I'm telling Jewel's story to, they're like, no, she wasn't alive long enough for the environmental factors to have caused it. So I don't know what it was. Like, it doesn't run in our family. She didn't test positive for the gene that we would have assumed, possibly. We do have other cancers that run in our family. My mom is a 5-year breast cancer survivor. She has the BRCA1, and her mom passed away of breast cancer as well. We do have history of cancer in our family, but no history of stomach cancer, or of any kids that had cancer. So we don't exactly know what her cause was or how. So that's why I've gotten more involved, and we're working on I work with Hope for Stomach Cancer. We're working on the pediatric project because we found out so many more kids have it than we ever thought. Because when we first found out about Jewel, we kind of thought that she was like a one-off, like a 1 in a million kind of situation. And now we're realizing that approximately 400 children under the age of 18 are being diagnosed with stomach cancer a year. But there's a great disconnect of them seeing various providers all over. So I don't guess anyone really understands that there is an actual problem and that we need to, gather this. So we're working on the pediatric project in honor of Jewel to see if we can't make this a little more congruent and figure out a way to bring these things together and get trials and figure out if there's another gene that we don't know about or what it is that's making these kids end up with this terrible cancer.
Unfortunately, because the recording session between June and I had to be cut short, she didn't have the opportunity to tell me all the things a parent wants to say about their child. June was kind enough, however, to send me another voice note so all of us could hear how much this proud mama loved her daughter and how big of an impact Jewel had not only on June's life, but on everyone's life that had the opportunity and privilege to meet and know her. Here's June one more time.
So Jewel was always a sweet, sweet, sweet little girl. She was tiny, petite, blonde, super smiley, happy. She was one of those little girls that always does what she was supposed to. I mean, she was a kid, but she was happy and fun, and she was just one of those that always did right. She had that moral compass in her. She was super fun. She was always smiling. Everything was always good. She loved pretty much everything. She didn't like bugs. Bugs or outdoor nature stuff. That wasn't her jam. But pretty much everything else, she was happy. You could make her happy really easily. She had so many friends. Grown-ups, she loved talking to grown-ups. She loved being with the little ones when she was a bigger kid. She's just had a shine about her that not everyone has. She was always someone that was overdoing. She would,
if it was expected to be at a certain level, she wanted to do better than that level. She cared about her grades. She always kept her grades high. She was in honors classes. She was in AP classes. She was on engineering pathway for college. Like I had said before, she cheered. That was her thing. She'd been tumbling and cheering since she was pretty small, and that was kind of her passion. She wanted to go to college and cheer, and it was just kind of end up in the air with where she was going to go. If it was going to be Georgia or Alabama, but she wanted to go cheer, and that was some of the things she loved. She loved cheering Friday Night Lights. She loved being with her friends. She was silly. She never took herself too seriously. Like, she was absolutely beautiful, but she wasn't. If you look at her pictures, you see more pictures of her making silly faces and being funny than trying to take the perfect Instagram shot. Like, that's not where her heart lies. She was more interested in having a good time, being good to people, making sure that she was there for others. She was very much a leader and an encourager. She had so many good qualities, and I know we all think that about our own children, of course, but she was really like that to everyone. Anybody that was ever around her, like I said, the little kids loved her, old people loved her, her age friends loved her, and it wasn't because she was beautiful or, popular. It was because she was kind, and she was fun, and she was funny, and she was always like that. She was herself, and she was comfortable being herself, and that's a really big quality. I think she was strong athletically, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and then that was tested, obviously, when she was diagnosed and had to go through so many terrible treatments and so much pain, but she forced through. Like, she powered through all of that. Like, I mean, honestly, like, it was nothing. She just did it. It was so very hardcore. Positivity was her thing. We were not going to sit around and cry about it. I would have fallen apart. She, however, had a mindset of, this is what we're doing. We're not going to cry. We're going to, what's the next thing we do? How do I get better? What's the next thing? What do we do next? All right. And that's what we did. And so, I talk about all the other kids and how you see all these children with cancer that have so much strength, and they're just doing things that you would never be able to see an adult do. And I don't think I could do just even a tiny fraction of what I see these babies do, but she did. They're so very powerfully, and I'm still in awe of how she could handle it all. So, that's just some of the things she was just happy. She was a helper. She loved people. She loved to be with people and to do all the fun things. Be at the beach, be at the lake, be with family, be with friends. We were constantly doing and being and loving on others. And that's something that I think that touched a lot of people from her, because they felt that love that she genuinely gave to them. So that's just, a little bit about Jewell.
Hey guys, this is Jessica. I decided to come in for the end. I'm sorry I missed the actual recording of it, but I wanted to join in with Ingrid and sum up this episode, because I did get the chance to listen, and it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Jessica, for joining your podcast.
June, I'm so sorry I missed you. You did an amazing job, and I can't even imagine being in your shoes. And you sound so strong. It's just, it's pretty amazing.
She's quite a woman. Thank you, June, for coming on. I know we had some technical difficulties, which was frustrating, but it was kind of a stressful thing for you to do. anyway. And then that on top of it, I'm sure didn't help. But like Jessica said, you did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded great.
It does.
You are incredibly strong.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing so much for childhood cancer awareness, stomach cancer awareness. Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Speaking of stomach cancer, and I can't remember if she mentioned it, but November is stomach cancer awareness. And her, the group that she has been doing a lot of advocating with, Hope for Stomach Cancer, I believe they're doing something big for the month of November. So
awesome.
We'll make sure to mention that again when November rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say thank you to Ashley because she's the one who actually plugged June and I together.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah. So Ashley, thank you so much. I know you do amazing stuff for Erlanger, and I know that you're very much appreciated there as well. So thank you for getting us together. You're right. I adored June. June was awesome enough to share with us a photo of she and Jewel, and she did create a bio to put up on our website. So make sure to go check that out at anothersituationpodcast.com. But we will also be sharing that photo of June and Jewel, as well as some of the statistics for childhood cancer. We'll be putting those on our Instagram and Facebook pages. So make sure to follow us on those if you're not. Great information. Thank you again, June. Just so you guys know, next week we will be having an episode with Michelle Harris, who is a podcaster herself, and she's a retired NICU nurse, neonatal ICU nurse, and September is also NICU Awareness Month. So we will be sharing some situations with Michelle next week.
Yay.
But I guess let's do our B's.
B. Go ahead. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Be golden.
Stay golden, pony boy. Be hopeful.
Be a badass mom like June.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Be an advocate.
That's a good one. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, June. Thank you, Jessica.
I'm so sorry I missed you, June. I was very sad over that, actually. I'm recovering from bronchitis, everybody. I'm okay. I'm just recovering from bronchitis. So, hi.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's not funny. No one does have time for that. Quick. Okay. See you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to reach out to us or submit your situation, please contact us at anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Another Situation Podcast. We're also on Facebook at Another Situation.
Another Situation is produced and edited by Point 5 Pinoy. Music is written and performed by Tim Crow.